Hello and welcome to The Away End. I'm John Green.
I'm Daniel Alarcón.
And today we're going to be talking about the World Cup playoff matches that start tomorrow as this is being uploaded, Daniel. Tomorrow, the joy of international football is back with us.
I had a question about that before we get to the individual games. I was really thinking about this on the way I was walking my dog this morning, that it must be kind of a trip for the players to go from games that matter to games that don't matter, or vice versa, right? So if you're in a club team and now you've got to go and your club team is like mid-table, you're not going up, you're not going down, everything's, whatever. And then you've got to go to a playoff like the ones that we're about to talk about. Psychologically, it must be a real trip. And there's, players who are locked in a title race who are going to play like a friendly against, whoever. And I feel like that just must really be jolting emotionally. Don't you think?
I would think playing in a playoff has got to be so intense, especially these one-game playoffs where it's literally win or go home. Your chances of playing in a World Cup, which is something you've dreamed of since you were a little kid, rest on 90 minutes of football. But it can't be that much less pressure than being in a title race in England or France or Germany or whatever. I mean, that's got to be a tremendous amount of pressure. And then you go play a friendly against like Slovenia, and you're like, here we are playing football for no stakes.
Totally. Absolutely. I mean, do you remember the guy who scored the winning penalty kick in the World Cup last time?
Isn't his name Mundial?
No, Mundial means global in
world means wait. His name is. Give me a second.
Close.
Give me a
close.
second. I'm getting there.
You're very close.
What is his name? I mean, I feel like I just mispronounced it, Daniel.
You did. Okay, I'm going to give it to you. His name is Gonzalo Montiel, and the reason I mentioned him is because
that's what I said.
You said Mundial, but okay, whatever.
I said it. I said it perfectly.
All right. So Gonzalo Montiel.
Once again, I am pilloried for my pronunciation when it's not my fault that I was raised an American.
You're fine. That was terrific. So Gonzalo Montiel scores the winning World Cup penalty in the World Cup final, then like languidly takes off his shirt and strolls to the corner flag. And then, pandemonium ensues, like a whole country celebrates. And then he went back to England a couple of weeks later to play for Nottingham Forest. And, and I just remember thinking like, what must that be like?
Yeah. You're celebrating in a bus tour where 60 million people have come out to see you so much that the bus cannot move.
Exactly.
And then enjoy being 14th.
Right. I mean, Forest fans are intense. I'm not saying they don't love their football. For sure, they love their club and they make City Ground a place to play, but it's very different. It's very different. I remember seeing him sort of like taking a corner kick, and I was like, man, this must be such a letdown. This must be like, like playing at the YMCA, compared to playing in the hothouse of a World Cup final, and then having the cojones to hit that penalty kick. I mean, anyway, he's now back in Argentina playing for River Plate, in case you were wondering. All right, that was my question. Should we talk about the games? There's a lot of exciting playoff action coming up. Should we start with Wales versus Bosnia? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, let's go with Wales versus Bosnia. Wales is a favorite in that game, but not a huge favorite. I like Wales to go through. I don't know much about the Welsh national team, but except for what Ryan Reynolds has taught me through his Wrexham program. But I feel like they've got better players. They've got a lot of players in the Premier League. There's no reason they can't make it through that game. Whether they can make it past Italy is another question entirely.
Okay, well, I'm going with Bosnia because one of my favorite writers is Alexander Hemon.
Not just a writer friend. He's not just a writer you like, also a writer who's your friend.
Yeah. I mean, I would say we're friendly. I wouldn't say he's like my closest friend, although I there was a time when I dreamed of being his like close friend because his first book, The Question of Bruno, and his novel, Nowhere Man, were really influential for me. And when I met him, I remember being completely starstruck. He's a wonderful guy, super, super nice. Anyway, he's Bosnian. And when I don't have much writing on these games, like I have no personal connection to either country, I really just go with the literature.
That's fair.
So, yeah, I'm all in on Bosnia.
That's fair. Well, this brings us to a difficult situation for you then. Italy versus Northern Ireland, two nations with, I would say, pretty strong literary heritage, but I don't know if you have any writer friends there. I have to go with Northern Ireland because there is a small chance, believe it or not, Daniel, that a player from AFC Wimbledon, the third-tier English soccer team I support and who we'll be learning more about later in this very podcast, a player from AFC Wimbledon might play for Northern Ireland in that game.
That's reason enough. I would say I really like Derek. No, I was gonna say I really like Dairy Girls, man. Dairy Girls was great. So I'm gonna go
it was a good show
with Northern Ireland. Yeah, really well written. I kind of teared up at the end. Cranberries.
Yeah, it was very
soundtrack.
moving.
Very moving.
Yeah, I think Italy is like a 15-1 favorite, but we're both going Northern Ireland out of respect for Dairy Girls.
Great. Okay, so that leaves us with Italy versus probably Wales. What do you think?
I mean, it's hard not to see Italy going through from this group because they're overwhelmingly the most talented team. But Italy has found a way to fall apart in previous World Cup qualifying groups. The pressure of this, the pressure of these two games of this like semifinal final bracket, the semifinals will be played on March 26th, the finals on March 31st. I can't even imagine the pressure of going into that knowing you have to win and you're Italy. And that's why I think it's possible that Italy doesn't go through because of the pressure.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Italy losing to North Macedonia last time. And the most notable thing about
their goalkeeper just in tears.
The goalkeeper's Donnarumma, or the goalkeeper for North Macedonia?
No, Buffon.
Buffon, man, what a keeper he was. That was because he was like 47 years old, and he knew that would be his last.
He knew he wasn't going to do it again.
Yeah, great flag, North Macedonia. Great flag.
Great flag.
Yeah.
Okay,
so you're going with Italy. I'm gonna go with Northern Ireland. To shock the world.
Northern Ireland
versus Wales.
Wow.
Northern Ireland goes through. Yeah.
That'd be fun.
I'm very pro-Irish. I just find them to be charming.
All right.
Irish
Well, we've got more
Northern Irish. Yeah.
We've got more Ireland down the road to talk about. But first, let's talk about Ukraine versus Sweden, which will be played in Spain because of the war. This is probably the most toss-uppy of the semifinal games, partly because there is no home field advantage, but partly because Ukraine and Sweden are both really good, both have really good football teams. Sweden no longer have 47-year-old Zlatan Ibrahimovic, but still have some good players. I'm going to go Ukraine in that one because I like the Ukrainian national team. I would love to see them go to the World Cup. I know how much it would mean to that country.
Okay, I'm very torn here because I agree with you kind of from a geopolitical point of view and so what it would mean to a country in the midst of a war. At the same time, Sweden has Victor Gyökeres, Arsenal striker, and I'm kind of selfishly want him to do well. I mean, he is a player who has the first touch of a croquet mallet, and sometimes watching him dribble is like watching a horse try to do a step over. But he's been quietly effective since the new year, and scoring some important goals, including some game winners. And I think it would do Arsenal a world of good if he were to do well here. So I'm really torn about this. But so it's like I'm balancing sort of like my selfish sort of Arsenal fandom versus kind of this moral stance against imperialism. And I think I have to go with Ukraine then. Okay. Unfortunately, I have to support Ukraine. Okay, so we're both for Ukraine. Okay.
Then we've got
Poland
Poland versus
Albania.
Albania, which will be played in Poland. Poland is favored there, but you never count out the Albanians in international football.
Really? Is that true?
Oh yeah, you never count them out. Has Albania ever qualified for the World Cup?
No, they haven't that I can think of. Because I mean, they did as Yugoslavia. Sure, they had, as Yugoslavia,
They've never qualified.
They've never qualified. Okay. Man,
so I guess actually, now that I think about it, you can count out the Albanians.
What's this? Okay, so here I have to go back to literature. And there's only one Albanian writer I know, Ismail Kadare. It's pretty good. But man, many good Polish writers.
That's
including
true.
I'm thinking of Bruno Schultz, Street of Crocodiles. I'm thinking of Tadeusz Borowski, This Way for the Gas, ladies and gentlemen.
What about Joseph Conrad?
Joseph Conrad, a little dense for me, but yeah.
Oh, come on. You don't mean that. You don't mean that. No, you don't. First off, you like dense literature. Second off, he's not that dense. I don't believe you.
Okay. All right. Don't believe me. I liked his book about the guy with the bomb, the secret agent.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good one.
It's a banger.
I didn't love Heart of Darkness.
It's a little dense. I know what you mean.
Dense. Yeah. Okay.
I know what you mean.
It's fair. But, but Poland takes this one just because I can only name one Albanian writer that I enjoyed, but I didn't, flip out over. Man, who wrote that book, A Minor Apocalypse? Do you know this writer?
No, I don't know the book either.
Oh, God. So good. It's called A Minor Apocalypse by Tadeusz Konwicki. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. And essentially the premise is it's like these communist, anti-communist dissidents go to this like aging writer and they're like, dude, you're basically done. You're useless. The Russian premier is in town. Here's a gallon of gasoline and some matches. Go light yourself on fire in front of the building tonight because, you've got nothing really else to offer the anti-communist movement and you're not writing anything. And so the novel follows him the whole day as he thinks about it. He's like, and he goes around saying goodbye to his friends and like his old lovers and sort of like, and everyone is like, yeah, I mean, this seems like a good ending for you. It's so funny and dark, truly brilliant book. Okay. So Poland in a landslide. Yeah.
Can I tell you real quick that one time when I was in New York City, I was hospitalized for an infection behind my eye, and I had this roommate because it was a crowded New York City hospital where everybody had a roommate. And so I had this roommate named Al, and Al was convinced that he was dying like that day. He had a heart problem. He was 86 years old. And so all night long, he called up his war buddies. He would call up his war buddies and he would be like, yeah, it's Al. Gotta say goodbye. Unfortunately, I got this heart valve issue and it's not going to be long for me. But then I was in the hospital with Al long enough that he got the successful surgery and then he was completely fine. And then he had to call back all of his war buddies and be like, hey, it's Al.
False alarm. Still here. I love that. Good for Al.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Al.
good. It's great. It's great to be able to say goodbye, and it's even better to be able to say hello again.
Yeah, I met a Chilean guy once who in Chile he'd been living in Sweden for many years, and he'd worked for the Swedish like news agency. Like many Chilean exiles, he'd gone to Sweden, and he told me that he'd been he and another reporter were going to be sent to Bosnia for the war to cover the war, and they had to do all kinds of medical checkups. So he and this other guy both did their medical checkups, and then the doctor called him and was like, okay, you have terminal cancer. You can't go to the war. You're going to die in a matter of weeks. So he did exactly what Al did, called everybody and said goodbye and, told people that he hated them and that they'd always been the worst to him. And sort of like just did all this stuff. And then they turned out that they'd switched the files and they didn't realize this until the other guy just keeled over and died. And then they were like, whoops. And he was basically on the trip I met him. This was a guy in his late 50s. he was coming back to Chile to make peace with all the people that he'd pissed off when he thought he was going to die.
When he thought he had weeks to live.
Exactly.
I think the lesson from that is maybe when you have weeks to live, don't go on like a revenge tour and like tell everyone you hate that you hate them.
Yeah. Or maybe, double check the diagnosis, get a second opinion.
Sure. Get a second opinion. Second opinion.
That's what Alex should have done too. Okay. So
that
means
Ukraine is going to play Poland in the final. Who's going to win, Daniel? Ukraine versus Poland.
I'm going with Ukraine. I know that Poland is probably going to win, but I'd like Ukraine to win.
I'm going to go with Ukraine too. It would be really fun to see Ukraine and Northern Ireland in the World Cup. It's not going to happen, but it would be fun.
It would be great. It would be great. Sponsored by random betting site. Okay. Next is Slovakia versus Kosovo.
This is a tough one for me. I don't know a lot of Slovakian or Kosovar writers. I think Slovakia is probably gonna win. They're playing at home. They've got that beautiful stadium in Bratislava. I'm gonna go with Slovakia.
Okay. They're playing at home, so I'm gonna go with Slovakia as well. Okay. Turkey versus Romania playing in Istanbul.
This is tough.
All I see is the welcome to hell sign.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Playing in Turkey is so hard. When Liverpool played in Turkey last week, I was watching on television in Indianapolis and I was intimidated.
Yeah. Yeah. There's three, the Besiktas is the black and white team and
so
I was in Istanbul.
Galatasaray is the orange and yellow one.
And the blue and yellow is Fenerbahce. Right. They are very intense, man. I actually happened upon a Besiktas game in Istanbul once. I didn't get to go into the game, although in my memory I've revised it that I was there. But I just remember the fans storming, sort of streaming in and just the noise. And I would not want to play in Turkey. And also, Orhan Pamuk, pretty great writer.
Pretty great writer.
Go Turkey. Yeah. I saw him once from a distance. Yeah. He was very quiet. Yeah. Yeah. He seemed very shy.
Did you see him speak or was he at a conference that you were at?
No, he was browsing books at the Frankfurt Book Fair. Yeah.
Oh, wow. You didn't go up to him?
I didn't know. Because what are you going to say? You know what? My older son, Leon, had a box of things that he was scared of when he was a kid. Mm-hmm. And he would ask his mom to keep it. And every once in a while, she would pull this shoebox out from the closet and show it to him. And the box had a lot of random things. But the one thing I remember that it had was a paperback of My Name is Red by Orhan Pamuk. And the cover freaked him out. And it was because it was just a close up of a kind of like a kind of very old Turkish painting of a war scene. And he would just look at it. And then he'd be like, no, that's enough. And we put it away. And we had to hide Orhan Pamuk from our kid.
Your whole life is so metaphorically resonant, Daniel. It's incredible. It's incredible how metaphors just bump into you.
Yeah, it might be
the box of things I'm afraid of that I look at occasionally in order to remind myself of fear is the best metaphor I've ever heard of, other than the other metaphors that you've told me from your own life.
Look, that one I did not come up with. My child did, so that's all on him. I think that there's only one that Turkey gets out of this group. But whether they play Slovakia or Kosovo, you got to go with Turkey.
Yep. All right. So far we have Turkey, Ukraine, and Northern Ireland going to the World Cup. Our last European matchup is Czechia versus Ireland in Prague. Czechia is favored, but just on the quality of literature, I know we're talking about some great Czech writers over the years, but I still think that we've got to go with Ireland there. Also, there's nothing like Irish fans of the World Cup. It's special. So I'm going with Ireland there. And then we've got Denmark versus North Macedonia. Never bet against North Macedonia, but I'm still going to go Denmark. And then in the final, I'm going to go Ireland, stunning the world and making it out of that group.
On literature alone, I'm torn,
You're torn. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, Milan Kundera is a great writer and everything, but you got James Joyce.
Yeah. Samuel Beckett. Brendan
Behan, whose last words were, "Bless you, sister, he said this to a nun as she was giving him an injection. He said, "Bless you, sister. May all your sons be bishops."
Oh yeah, okay, all right. Colin Toybin, oh, great writer.
Yeah,
great.
banger.
Sally Rooney. Yeah. All right. Okay, you convinced me. Okay, so I'm going Ireland all the way here. Ireland all the way. So to recap, we have Northern Ireland going all the way, Ukraine going all the way, Turkey, and now Ireland. It's great.
We'll be lucky if we
get
get one of these.
Yeah, no, seriously. Okay, we have Bolivia versus Suriname. This is the Intercontinental playoff. Bolivia versus Suriname playing in Mexico, and the winner plays Iraq. Maybe. I think Bolivia is favored there.
Yeah, I think Bolivia is probably going to win that game. Bolivia versus Iraq is a really interesting matchup, but I don't know if it's going to happen because it's not clear that Iraq is going to make it to that game.
I wonder what happens in that case. I don't think there's a precedent for this kind of situation.
Yeah.
Except like back in the 30s when teams would pull out of the World Cup because like their boat wasn't big enough, to get, the very early World Cups. But this is quite a different situation.
Yeah.
I would like Bolivia to win. The entire Suriname national team is just like Dutch B-teamers, essentially.
Right.
Which is a fascinating sort of post-colonial reality. I would like Bolivia to win because Bolivia hasn't been to the World Cup in a long time. And more Latin America is better for me. Okay. North Caledonia. Where is that exactly?
It's actually New Caledonia.
Did I say North Caledonia?
You did.
I was testing you, John. I was testing you. That is super embarrassing. Super embarrassing.
Well, it's fine, though, because New Caledonia is a nation of 290,000 people. And I would have bet my life that it was somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. But in fact, it is somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, just off the coast of Australia. And it was named New Caledonia because a European fella saw it and thought it looked like Scotland.
And yet they speak French there?
They speak French. In fact, they are part of France. There is an independence movement, and it's currently being negotiated with France whether they will be fully independent. But currently, they are French citizens.
Interesting. Okay, well, I support the New Caledonian independence movement, but still want Jamaica to win.
Yeah, yes. I want Jamaica. Jamaicans at the World Cup, it's so special. Like it's especially a World Cup in the United States. It would be so awesome. It would make me so happy. That said, I think DR Congo is probably going to win. So New Caledonia plays Jamaica, and then the winner plays DR Congo, and it's hard not to see DR Congo winning that game.
Yeah, DR Congo is a strong team for sure. Just in terms of spectacle for the joy that the World Cup would bring, and for all the fans around the game, I think Jamaica playing in the United States would be wonderful. But we'll see. I'm going to go with Jamaica there, even though I know that's not the most likely thing to happen. So we have, out of this World Cup, I'm going Bolivia and Jamaica out of these intercontinental playoffs.
Yeah, and I'm going to go Iraq and Jamaica, and we'll see. We'll see. I mean, the joy of the Intercontinental playoffs for me is that it's so unpredictable. Like New Caledonia and Jamaica have never, ever faced each other. This is a completely unprecedented situation in human history.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Who the hell knows? But we'll find out. That's what makes it so fun.
I love it. Okay, so and we'll check back in and see who did better. Although I guess, or how well we did, because we kind of agreed on everything, or almost everything. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back with a deep dive on the national team of France. All right, we're back on the away end. John, I want to tell you something about the national team of France, but I want to start with something that I learned when I married into a Colombian family, which is that here in Latin America, we are all taught the following, that our national anthem was judged to be the second most beautiful national anthem in the world after La Marseillaise, the French national anthem. And I always just took this to be gospel truth. So I was taught this when I was a kid, that the proven national anthem was the second most beautiful national anthem in the world. And then in my 30s, when I married into a Colombian family, I've discovered that the Colombians are also taught this. And then I think like most Latin Americans are taught that their national anthem is the second most beautiful national anthem in the world. And it was funny because until I realized this, I never even thought to consider like, when was this tournament of national anthems held? And who were the judges? Was this like
It's
some
like
kind of
Eurovision, but for national anthems?
Exactly. And also, how would you judge that? Like, what would be the fair way? Was it a bracket system or like a, friendly, like, why would that even exist? Who would, the whole thing is just so preposterous, but it was just one of those things that I just never questioned. I was like, oh, we have the second most beautiful national anthem in the world. But what's funny is that everyone agreed that the French national anthem was like the top, the best, right?
Right.
And I mention this because it's not just national anthems in which France is a global powerhouse. I have vivid memories of watching the French national team over the years, beautiful memories. And I think I mentioned this before on this podcast, but I'm not sure. One of the first places that I learned the lessons of kind of narrative and drama was watching the 1986 quarterfinal match between France and Brazil. And I mentioned this because the main lesson of drama, like if you want to create drama, it's as a writer, you make indelible characters that people love, and so that you're invested in their mistakes. The reader is invested in their mistakes, right? So that you're kind of this a more sophisticated version of like, don't go in there, and I learned this because I was watching this game and I loved two players on the team, on each team, the number 10s for both Brazil and France. The Brazilian number 10 is Socrates, just such a character, and a beautiful player. And the French number 10 was Michel Platini. Both were these kind of very technical midfield generals with tremendous vision. They're the kind of players that make the other players around them better, which I think is kind of a requirement for anyone who wants to be in the discussion of being great, truly great. The game, I remember, was breathless. There was a point at which Brazil had a penalty, and the French defender who gave away the penalty later revealed that Platini had come up to him and said, before the pen was taken, and he said, "You better pray this guy misses or I'm going to kick your ass." Which kind of flies in the face of my makes everyone better thing, but it does sort of speak to the intensity that Platini had. The Brazilian player did in fact miss. The game was 1-1 at full time, went to extra time, went to penalties, and both Socrates and Platini missed. And I loved both of these teams. I was watching through like a horror movie. I couldn't decide what I wanted. It really was like it put me through the ringer. France eventually won in penalty kicks despite Platini's miss and went on to lose to Germany in the semis. So in 1998, I was studying abroad in France. And at the end of the semester, I flew to Abidjan and then eventually to Morocco. I traveled around a bit, then went to Spain to visit a cousin of mine who lived in Barcelona. This was the summer of 1998. And I almost, John, took a train to Paris. But I thought to myself, I really have no more money and I need to go back to New York to work. And I'm sure that would be amazing. But you know what? France never wins anyway. So it's not like I'm going to miss anything. And of course, they won. I spent some of the money I made that summer on a Zidane jersey, a player that another sort of like midfield general, number 10, leader of a team, player I love despite the fact that he played for Madrid. I loved a lot of French players over the years, not the least of which is Thierry Henry, arguably the greatest striker in French history, Arsenal legend, whose jersey I'm currently wearing. So I guess France, when they found out that I doubted them that year, they just really stepped it up. And in response to those doubts, they've become one of those handful of teams that's always in the mix, that really could win it all. They're in the conversation for every tournament. They've been in the finals for 3 of the last 5 tournaments. Wow. Which is an incredible feat. They won in 2018, of course. But I just wanted you to understand the depth of talent that France has, because, when you presented the U.S. men's national team, you were like, oh my God, they have like 20 players in the Premier League or whatever. Paris and her suburbs constitute what must be like the greatest concentration of soccer talent in the world. And just to underline this, I want to tell you a crazy fact. There were more players born in Paris and surrounding areas playing in the African Cup of Nations this past year than in any other country in the tournament.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Astonishing, right? And that's obviously has to do with the, intense footballing culture, with the training, with the mass migration, which has transformed France. It has to do with the passion. It's just, this is a footballing nation that has so much talent that they're able to export it to other countries. So players, you've obviously heard of Kylian Mbappe, and by you, I mean the listeners. I know you, John, have. He was the super young in 2018. He won the best young player of the year. He scored 4 goals in 7 games, including one against Peru, which I'm sure was like the most special goal to him.
That's the one he remembers.
That's probably the one he remembers the most, thinks about all night. He has blossomed since then, obviously, to become one of the greatest players in the world. Just the 40 goals in all comps for Madrid this season. Just the 40. Yeah. So, but he's not the only player, John.
And Madrid fans still complain about him.
They're very spoiled.
They're very spoiled. They're so lucky.
Yeah. Didier Deschamps, France manager, who looks like one of those like senior execs from that show Mad Men. Just an absolute embarrassment of talents. And I'm just going to name a couple or a few. Ousmane Dembele, reigning Ballon d'Or winner. His teammate at PSG, Bradley Barcola. Arsenal's William Saliba. Bayern's Michael Olise, incredible player. Barcelona's Jules Koundé, Hugo Ekitike, who you know from Liverpool, and the list goes on and on. So much talent. The logical conclusion here is to say that France might not win the World Cup, but they're definitely going to be in the mix. I wouldn't be surprised if they made it to the semis. And like we said, with these playoffs, once we get into the knockout rounds of a tournament, anything can happen, but they're definitely one of the teams to watch. And I just want to end by saying it wasn't just that 1986 quarterfinal that sort of taught me the lessons that I think have helped make me a novelist or storyteller. There was another iconic French moment, which I'm sure you remember, that also kind of reinforced that lesson of narrative and the creation of drama. And that was the 2006 Zinedine Zidane headbutt against Italy
one of the most
in the finals.
Dramatic failures of keeping a cool head in all of human history. Incredible. Actually, to name check Alexander Himon once more, he described it as watching a man commit suicide in public. It was so dramatic. It was 10 minutes before full time, and the deflation of the national team, the players around him, once he was gone, it was just there could only be one winner. After that, It was incredible. So we should tell the story real quick of what happened. I was watching from Chicago with a bunch of my friends. I'm sure you were watching wherever you were. Billions of people literally were watching the World Cup final. It was in extra time, and the greatest player, one of the greatest players ever, the greatest player on the pitch, but by a country mile, was Zinedine Zidane, this French player. And one of the opposing players apparently called his sister a name. And then Zinedine Zidane headbutted the guy, got a red card, was sent off, and France lost the World Cup.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. The Italian player was Materazzi.
Materazzi.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even, let's put it this way. If you headbutted an opponent every time your sister got called a name, you'd get a lot of red cards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, but I think that in some way, I should mention this also. Zidane, when they won in '98, scored 2 goals. In the final, and he'd already scored a goal in Italy against Italy in that game. And moments before, he had nearly scored a bullet header from a distance where it was unthinkable that you could even get off a powerful shot. He'd headed the ball from almost the 18-yard line, the box, and the Italian keeper Buffon had been an incredible save, and so he was like a fingertip away from being like the first person to score 2 goals in 2 World Cup finals, you know? And then like literally 3 minutes later, he gets a red card, and no one at the time knew why, because there wasn't, when we saw it, and I was wearing my Zidane jersey that I bought in '98. There weren't the same number of like replays, you know, like we didn't see it for a long time in the stadium. No one knew why unless they'd seen it happen.
Because it was off the ball. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was just a nothing moment where he completely lost his cool. And you have to say, who knows how the game goes? I mean, obviously it's an extra time. It's probably going to go to penalties. That's a lottery. Who knows how the game goes if he doesn't get a red card? But with him getting a red card, it felt inevitable that France was going to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with France here. But I want to thank the nation of France for their everything they've taught me about narrative, specifically the national team of France for teaching me to be a writer. I also want to dedicate this description of the France national team and their chances to my son's friend Camilo, who's French, half French, and really special kid in our family. So yeah, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
All right, welcome back to the away end. It's my turn to tell a story, and Daniel, I'm going to tell you the story of the football team I love so much, AFC Wimbledon, because I don't think I've ever told you this story, and I know I haven't told a lot of the listeners this story. So in 1889, a club was formed in Southwest London called Wimbledon FC. They spent most of their time as an amateur team, but then eventually they rose up to the professional ranks through promotion. And in 1988, they reached the pinnacle of English football at the time by winning the FA Cup. They beat Liverpool in the FA Cup final. They won this big cup. Princess Diana handed it to them. It was a big deal. And then almost immediately, the club started to fall apart because of poor ownership and rich people, as they often do, treating football clubs as assets rather than as community-based organizations. And so eventually, the club was basically bankrupted. And the only proposed solution from the ownership team was to move the club away. Now, we know this happens a lot in American sports. The Baltimore Colts become the Indianapolis Colts, etc. It had never happened in English football because fundamentally it's not the Arsenal Gunners or the Liverpool Reds. It's Arsenal and Liverpool. And it was Wimbledon, which was, you know, a club in the community of Wimbledon in Southwest London where the tennis tournament happens. But even so, in the year 2001, the club was moved against the will of all the fans to Milton Keynes, this new city that had been created sort of from scratch about 70 miles away. And the community of Wimbledon was left without a football club. And one young woman described this to me. She said, it was like my dad. You know, my dad had been going to every game for 40 years, and it was like they'd taken away my dad's church. You know, I mean, it's such a big part of your identity when you're a supporter of a football club, and to have that suddenly just completely wrested away from you and told that it's, you know, not in the best interests of the sport as a whole for your club to exist is absolutely devastating. And what Wimbledon fans did is they started over. So the club that was Wimbledon FC took the league place and became known as MK Dons, Milton Keynes Dons. The Wimbledon fans refused to acknowledge the Dons part of Milton Keynes Dons, but at any rate, that's the official name of that team. And they were by then in the third division of English football, which is still a professional league. And this new club, or this Phoenix club, the rebirth of Wimbledon FC, was called AFC Wimbledon. And they started down in the 9th tier of English soccer. I mean, at away games, they were literally sitting on hay bales, paying 50 cents to watch their team play when just 5 years earlier, they'd been in the Premier League. And thousands of people became owners of this new AFC Wimbledon because it wasn't going to be owned by any rich person. It was going to be owned by the fans, by all of them together, so that this could never happen again. And even if they had to spend eternity in the amateur ranks of English football, at least they would have a club of their own. But they worked their way up. After 2 years, they got promoted to the 8th division. Then they got promoted to the 7th division. Then they were stuck there for a few years and slowly worked their way up until by 2011, they were just one promotion away from being back to being a full-time professional team. They had a game, a playoff final to get there. It was 0-0 against Luton Town. You know Luton Town. They were in the Premier League not long ago. But back then they were in the 5th division along with AFC Wimbledon. And it was 0-0 at the end of full time and at the end of extra time. And it went to penalties. And Wimbledon's goalkeeper at the time was this 19-year-old kid working part-time at a rental car place named Seb Brown, who'd actually been in the pub where he was like 6 years old, and he was in the pub where AFC Wimbledon was originally formed back when all of this went down. And Seb Brown saved 2 penalties against Luton Town to send AFC Wimbledon back to the Football League, back to being a full-time professional team, which they've been ever since 2011. Our community has been sponsoring them. They wear our logo on the liminal space between left thigh and buttock on the back of their shorts. It says DFTBA, which stands for Don't Forget to Be Awesome. We've been sponsoring them since 2014. But these days, AFC Wimbledon is up in the 3rd division. And what's really incredible is that Milton Keynes, the team that used to be us, is in the 4th division.
Yes.
And so after all that trauma and hurt and stealing away a football club, they don't even get to play us every season because they're not good enough. But when we do play, I've been to a few games where AFC Wimbledon played against Milton Keynes, and it is the most ferocious. I mean, look, I've never been to Turkey. I've never seen Galatasaray play. I'm sure that's more ferocious, but it is the most ferocious thing I've ever seen in English soccer. It is incredibly dramatic. There are many songs. My favorite of the songs that Wimbledon fans sing is "Where Were You? Where Were You? Where Were You When You Were Us?"
Oh, wow. That's also like a metaphor. I would put that in my scary box.
They also sing, "You franchise bastard, you know what you are."
Wow. Do you almost feel sorry for the Milton Keynes players?
No, they know what they're. No, they don't have to sign a professional contract with that club. We've got one. There's only one player ever who's signed, as far as I can remember, who used to play for AFC Wimbledon, who signed for Milton Keynes, and that guy gets a lot of abuse.
I bet.
Connor Lemon High Evans. He's not well liked around Southwest London.
Hate that guy. Yeah.
I've always disliked him.
Yeah.
So that's the story, the very abbreviated story of the football club I love so much and that I've devoted so much of my time and treasure to over the years. I just, it makes me so happy. How many games do you get to?
How many games do you get to go to a year or a season?
I probably go to 5 or 6 games a year.
Oh, that's great.
I go to a fair number. Yeah. I probably go to 1 Liverpool game a year if I'm lucky and 5 or 6 Wimbledon games.
That's great. Well, I'd like to hitch a ride next time, or one of these times.
Oh man, you would have so much fun.
Yeah.
I'll let you know. It's a quick flight from Colombia.
Yeah, I think there's direct flights actually from Bogota to Wimbledon. Yeah.
Well, it's not far. If you can get to Heathrow, it's not that far away.
Yeah. All right. We'll do it. Man, I love that story, and I'm a fan now. I'll be checking them out. What are their chances of a promotion this season?
Very exceptionally low. I mean, we have the 2nd lowest budget in the 3rd division, so just not getting relegated is a huge win.
Okay. All right. Well,
we'll take it.
That's great. You'll take it. Exactly. Wonderful. I have a new team to support then in the 3rd division.
You do.
I've been looking for a team in the 3rd division to support. John, we got some mail.
Yeah. awayendpod@gmail.com, everybody.
Yeah, we get a lot of mail. We get a surprising amount of mail, and I enjoy it very much. So this one says, "Hey, Daniel, Sean, and John, I love the new pod. What a great intro to global football. Thanks for making it and sharing it. I've long thought John would find one of my parenting choices funny/interesting. Growing up, my lullabies were family versions of Irish drinking songs, including Show Me the Way to Go Home. When my daughter was born almost 3 years ago, I decided the logical next step was football chants. She gets You'll Never Walk Alone and Show Me the Way to Plow Lane every night. Tonight, she decided to sing along. I grabbed a voice memo of it to share. Thanks, and DFTBA, Emily." So let's take a listen.
Show me the way to plowing. For I'm tired and I wanna go home. Well, I had a football ground 20 years ago, and I want one of my own. Whenever I may roam to Selhurst Park again, you can always hear me singing this song. Show me the way to plowing.
Oh my God, that's so stinking cute. So that's the song that we sang for 25 years, Daniel, as we were trying to get back home to Wimbledon, trying to build a stadium to replace Plough Lane, the stadium where Wimbledon played from the early 1900s. And we finally did. We finally built a stadium across the street from that old stadium, and it's called the New Plough Lane. And we still sing that song to remind us of the long journey that we've been on. And I have to confess that hearing that makes me tear up a little.
It's beautiful. Emily, thank you so much for sharing that. I really loved it. Wow. Okay. Emotional clarity here. Let's move on. This one's a little bit of a critique, John. So I want to share
we
it
need
with you.
that sometimes.
It says, Dear John and Daniel, I am writing with an observation. The smugness with which you and John Green congratulate yourselves on your powerful hair has not gone unnoticed in the chrome domosphere. Won't someone think of the balds? As that renowned poet, my mother, once said, grass does not grow on a busy street. Yours, Luke.
Luke, Sean isn't with us today, but if he were, I would just bring him on right now to talk about his luxurious head of hair. I mean, there's something about our high school that just made for beautiful, strong heads of hair.
Spin the water. Yeah. I want to say that this comes from my friend Luke, and I was like, Luke, do you want me to, can I say your, I was going to share this anonymously because it actually came, I'll be honest, in the form of a text. And he said, say my full name. So this is from my friend Luke Dempsey. Luke is such a good friend and such a wonderful writer. He wrote this book called Club Soccer 101, which is 101 stories of club soccer teams from around the world. It's a great book, a really fun book. And Luke and I used to go see Red Bulls games together.
No, nice.
Yeah. He lives in LA now, and I can't remember now if he's which side of the El Tráfico divide he is now, but he's also a big United fan. Anyway, so Luke, I have nothing to apologize for. Just want to say,
yeah, neither do I.
It's just genes, man. I didn't do anything about it. It's just this is what I was given. So
it's true that you were given a good head of hair, Daniel, but you also do extraordinary things with it. Like, even when we were in high school, I would always be like, my God, that guy has great hair. And it's not entirely just because of the thickness of it. It's also because of the way you style it. So I think you deserve a little bit of credit.
I think your memory of me in high school is just completely, bizarrely, exaggeratedly, nice to me. I just feel like mostly my style was just not washing my hair enough. And,
I don't know. I mean, you can say that all you want, but I think we both know which one of us ended up with our mutual high school crush. Let's move on. Yes. There you go. Lastly, a correction, and this is key. This is from Daniel's son, Alicio. We have a very important correction. Alicio writes, the camaraderie on the chess team is quite strong. When one of us loses, we are sad. When we do well, we are all happy. I disagree with the statement made on the podcast. Yours, Alicio.
That's so great. Slight correction to your correction. It's Eliseo. But that's okay.
Once again, I am pilloried for completely correct pronunciation.
I look, we'll leave that aside. And I just want to apologize to Eliseo for this, sort of mischaracterization of the team spirit of the chess team at his local school here in Bogota. I want to wish the chess team of El Anglo all the best in their upcoming tournament, and also his chess club at Calpa as well. I'm sure you'll do great.
Eliseo, on my front, I just want to say it was my bad I thought about disagreeing with your dad the moment he said that because I knew he was wrong. But then sometimes just with the vibe of the pod, you want to just keep flowing. You want to yes and somebody. And that was my mistake. I should have interrupted him the moment he said that and said the chess teams have tremendous camaraderie. And it's not Daniel's fault or my fault that we've never been inside of one of those chess locker rooms and seen that camaraderie up close.
Chess locker rooms. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm making it worse. I'm sorry, Eliseo. John, you didn't need to throw me under the bus just to get on my son's good side. Anyway, we're going to end there before I offend any of my children anymore. John, thanks as always. Thanks to our producer, Kurt. Sean will be back next week. We're going to have to quiz him on something. Great seeing you as always, man. And we'll do it again soon.
Can't wait.